If you agree that respect should be earned before it's given, like and subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you starts with mockery and ends with a silence no one on that base will ever forget. She wasn't in uniform. No rank on her shoulders. No name tape on her chest. Just a black leather jacket, worn in the elbows, zipped halfway against the desert wind. Late 20s, hair tied back in a no-nonsense knot. Eyes hidden behind dark aviators that reflected nothing but the glint of the sun overhead. She walked toward the Joint Forces base checkpoint like she had 100 times before, except this time, she carried a plain, black hard case in her right hand. The MPs noticed her before she even reached the barrier. Two of them, barely older than recruits, leaning on the reinforced glass of the guard shack like it was the corner of a high school hallway. They weren't bad at their jobs, just bored. And bored young men in positions of minor authority tend to find their entertainment where they can. She stepped up, handed over her ID without a word. One of them, Private Vaughn, flipped it in his hand, glanced down at the outdated civilian contractor clearance photo, and smirked. "This thing's ancient," he said, holding it up to the light. "What is this from? Afghanistan days." The other, Specialist Kruger, chuckled. "Expired 3 years ago. Contractor access only." Guess she didn't get the memo. Reese didn't blink, didn't correct them, just stood there, her grip on the case loose, as if time itself didn't rush her. "You carrying anything for inspection?" Vaughn asked, though the way his gaze dropped to the case made it sound more like a dare. She set it on the table without comment. Kruger popped the latches. The metallic clicks sounded too loud in the dry air. The lid opened to reveal a well-worn compact 9mm, matte black, the kind you'd expect to see holstered on someone who knows it's a tool, not a trophy. Kruger picked it up between two fingers, testing the weight. "Cute little sidearm," he said with a crooked grin. "Your boyfriend let you borrow it." Vaughn laughed. "But she got it at a pawn shop. Probably shoots like a paintball gun." The pistol was already cleared and tagged before Reese had spoken a single word. They slid it into a lockbox behind the counter, along with her case, stamping a temporary confiscation slip she didn't bother to take. "You can collect it from the armory desk after you get clearance sorted," Vaughn said, "assuming they even let you keep it." Still, no answer from her. No sharp comeback, no protest. Just the faintest quirk at the corner of her mouth. Not amusement, not anger. Something else. Something the two MPs were too busy congratulating themselves to read. Behind her, a pair of Humvees rolled through the gate, their diesel engines drowning out the soft hum of the wind. She stepped aside to let them pass, hands in her jacket pockets, gaze fixed somewhere past the checkpoint, past the perimeter itself. It was Kruger who finally broke the moment. "Look," he said, "we're just doing our job. Regulations say." Reese turned her head slightly, just enough for the late morning light to catch the edge of her glasses. "Regulations are for people who don't know what to do without them," she said quietly. Then she looked away again. Kruger blinked. Vaughn frowned, like he wasn't sure if she'd insulted them or not. She walked to the metal bench along the side of the checkpoint building, sat down with the same unhurried patience she'd had since she arrived. No phone, no magazine, just her, waiting. From where they stood, the MPs could still see her, boots planted square, jacket creases forming straight lines over her frame, head slightly bowed. She looked like she could sit there for an hour without moving. Maybe 2. 5 minutes passed. A dusty cargo truck rumbled through. Another ID check. Then another. Vaughn glanced over. "You think she's Special Forces or something?" Kruger shrugged. "With an expired badge and a pocket pistol? Nah. Probably one of those private security contractors who never made it past basic. I've seen her type before, still living off a mission they did back when they were 21. They both laughed again, low and easy, as if the sound couldn't travel. But it did, straight to the bench where Reese sat. Her hands were folded now, fingertips pressed together, elbows resting on her knees. She didn't turn, didn't react, just listened. A half hour passed before anything shifted. A shadow stretched long across the inspection table as a senior NCO stepped into view, Sergeant First Class Halvorsen, base security shift lead. He had the posture of someone who'd stood too many hours in heat and cold, but the eyes of a man who didn't miss much. "What's the hold-up?" he asked, scanning the log sheet. Vaughn gestured vaguely toward the bench. "Outdated credentials, unregistered weapon. Contractor type." Halvorsen didn't nod, didn't dismiss it. He picked up the lockbox, popped the lid, and pulled out the compact 9mm. He turned it over in his hands once, then again. And that's when he saw it. The grip insert wasn't stock. Black carbon, flesh fit, etched with something so small you wouldn't notice unless you knew to look. 2 words. Shadow cell, 0 hour. Halvorson's jaw tightened. He glanced toward the bench, then back at the MPs. Where do you say you found this? Vaughn hesitated. She had it in the case when she came through. Why? You recognize it. Halvorson didn't answer. He set the pistol down with care, reached into his vest for the secure phone clipped inside, and stepped 2 paces away. When he spoke, his voice was flat. This is Halvorson. Code Black Asset confirmed at Checkpoint 2. Shadow Cell operative on site. Protocol 0 hour in effect. Notify command. The line was quiet for a moment. Then a voice on the other end said just 2 words, stand by. Halvorson turned back toward the MPs, his gaze sharp enough to cut steel. You two don't move. And don't say another word to her. Kruger's smirk faltered. Vaughn swallowed. On the bench, Reese finally looked up. Not at them, but at the horizon, where the dust from a fast-approaching vehicle was already curling into the pale blue sky. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Because whatever was coming, she'd been expecting it all along. The MPs didn't know what shadow cell meant. Most soldiers don't. It isn't on any training slide, any recruiting pamphlet, any sanitized briefing for public eyes. It lives in the cracks between operations, where missions don't officially happen and people don't officially exist. The kind of thing that, if you have to ask, you'll never get the answer. But Sergeant First Class Halvorson knew. He'd seen that insignia once before, carved into the side of a battered rifle that came back from a mission nobody admitted happened. The man who carried it had 3 confirmed kills and 1 confirmed miracle. Halvorson had never forgotten the words. 0 hour. Now here it was again, etched into the palm swell of a compact 9mm sitting in the middle of his checkpoint. And the woman it belonged to was sitting 20 feet away, calm as if she had all the time in the world. Vaughn and Kruger were still trying to pretend nothing was wrong. They kept their voices low now, but their posture had shifted, less leaning, more standing. That's the thing about a change in the air. You can feel it before you understand it. The hum of the base traffic seemed to fade as a low, growing rumble took its place. Out past the outer perimeter, a dark shape cut through the dust. A black SUV, no markings, moving with that particular kind of purpose that makes people get out of its way without being told. Reese didn't stand. She didn't even turn her head until the vehicle rolled to a precise stop just beyond the barricade. The rear door opened. A man stepped out. Crisp desert camouflage, no name tape, no visible rank, which in this context said more than any insignia could. His boots hit the gravel with the measured weight of someone who didn't hurry unless lives were on the line. Halvorson stepped forward immediately, saluting with the kind of precision that comes from muscle memory and respect, not fear. The man returned it just enough to be polite, then glanced past him, straight at Reese. She rose then, unhurried. Each movement was deliberate, controlled. Vaughn's mouth opened slightly. Kruger took a step back without meaning to. The newcomer's voice was low, but it carried. Operative Reese. 0 hour is greenlit. Your transport is ready. No one breathed. Halvorson unlocked the armory box and slid the pistol across the inspection table without a word. Reese picked it up, checked the chamber with one quick glance, and holstered it under her jacket like it had never left her side. No thanks. No gloating. She walked toward the SUV, the stranger falling into step beside her. Behind them, the 2 MPs stood frozen. The reality settling in wasn't loud. It was worse. It was silent. The kind of silence that comes when you realize the person you mocked could have ended your career or saved your life, and you'll never know which. Some clearances don't expire, and some warriors never stop answering the call, no matter who's manning the gate. The black SUV didn't roar off. It glided, smooth, deliberate, to the checkpoint. The MPs were left staring at the shrinking taillights, still trying to process what they'd just seen. Sergeant First Class Halvorson didn't speak to them. He didn't need to. The look he gave as he stepped back into the shack said it all. You didn't just cross a line. You crossed into a world you don't understand. 20 minutes later, Vaughn and Kruger were still replaying the scene when the radio on Halvorson's chest crackled. A call from command, priority broadcast. The kind of announcement you don't hear unless something big is moving. All security personnel, be advised. Code Black Asset is active on base. Full cooperation is expected. Clearance overrides in effect until further notice. Vaughn frowned. That's her, isn't it? Kruger didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the SUV pulling back toward the checkpoint. Same one, same blacked-out windows. Only this time, the passenger door opened. Reese stepped out. And she wasn't alone. The man from earlier was still with her, but now another figure emerged. A brigadier general in full dress uniform, ribbons sharp, stars catching the late afternoon light. The kind of presence that changes the temperature of a room, even outdoors. The general's voice cut through the air before they'd even reached the MPs. Which one of you took her weapon? Neither Vaughn nor Kruger moved. The general stopped in front of them. Answer the question. Vaughn swallowed. We both did, sir. Standard procedure. Her ID was. Her ID, the general interrupted, isn't in your system because her work doesn't exist in your system. Silence. He turned to Reese, who stood with the same unreadable calm she'd had from the moment she arrived. You're clear to proceed to staging. Transport window closes in 12 minutes. She nodded once, then looked at the MPs, not with anger, but with something far heavier. Disappointment wrapped in quiet certainty. The general leaned in toward Vaughn and Kruger, just enough for his words to be private, but not quiet. Shadow cell operatives don't carry weapons for show. If she has one, it's because she's needed it, and because she's earned it. Men who wear stars on their shoulders take her calls. Men who wear stripes take her orders. He stepped back, the message delivered. Reese adjusted her jacket, the outline of the holstered 9mm visible for just a heartbeat before she turned to leave. And then, without looking back, she spoke, not loud, but clear enough for them both to hear. Checkpoints aren't just about keeping people out. They're about knowing who you're letting through. She got into the SUV. The door shut. The vehicle rolled away, leaving nothing but settling dust and the echo of a truth those two MPs wouldn't forget. They thought they were confiscating just another sidearm. What they really held in their hands was the calling card of someone who still moves in the shadows, someone whose missions will never make the news, but whose work will keep men like them alive. Some clearances never expire, and some warriors, the rarest kind, never stop answering when 0 hour comes.